Hello, this is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Today's video is again about the Elantra, but what I'm going to show you here is that it isn't just one time at 4:01 that the Elantra was seen missing its front license plate. It was also earlier at around 3:28 in the morning. So we're going to go through the information right now. We're also going to go through some other information regarding the missing time that's on the 1320 Linda Lane camera and discuss other information around the Elantra. Alright, so let's get started. A vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 is seen traveling westbound on Steiner Avenue, crossing Main Street and continuing westbound onto Lauder Avenue. Alright, so if you guys remember, that is right here. So after, the video apparently starts right down here at 326 on Indian Hills Drive. The vehicle drives around up on this blue line, travels around, and then passes through Main Street and Lauder Avenue right here. And this is the A&W. And that's the camera that picked up the white Elantra driving by. Interestingly, in the probable cause document, it says a review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect Vehicle 1, was observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner Avenue at Idaho State Highway 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28. On this video, it appeared suspect Vehicle 1 was not displaying a front license plate. So perhaps back then they can see that it doesn't look like it has a license plate, but the 401 absolutely proves that it doesn't have one. But this is in the probable cause document, so they were very certain, even in this, that it looked like it didn't have a front license plate, and that was at 3:28. All right, so if we go back out here, that was when the vehicle drove right by here. It was at around 3:28 and I think like 46 seconds or so. They might have 56, but I think it's 10 seconds before that. That was one of the cameras that had its time kind of messed up. So then the vehicle drives this direction, and this building right here is the 1125 Ridge Road address, and it does pick up the vehicle twice. There's two different cameras. There's camera 1, I think, is on this side, and then there's camera 2 over here. And this is the camera that later picks at the vehicle driving by at 4:01 this direction. But right now we're talking about it's coming in like this. It drives by, and then at 3:29:04 it's seen heading up like this. And then coming around. And then it makes its way past Linda Lane, which is right there. And that is on camera at 3:29:48. So just the timing, you got a Elantra driving by, missing its front license plate. It's picked up, driving up right here. Then the Linda Lane camera picks up the vehicle driving like this, and then the vehicle enters into the complex, we'll call it, right into here. So the wording that's in the recent documents, it says, a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 is seen traveling westbound on Lauder Avenue through the intersection of Lauder Avenue and Ridge Road. And that's at 3:29:02. And then 3:29:04, just like I showed you a moment ago, a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 continues on Lauder Avenue as the road curves to the north towards Taylor Avenue. So I don't know exactly where that camera is right here. It could also just be right here over on the corner, and it shows that it's going this direction and turns, and it goes up there. And then we go back to the document, and it says, a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 is seen traveling westbound on Taylor Avenue past Linda Lane, and that's at 3:29:48. And that's what we just showed. So it goes up like this, and then this direction, and then that's Linda Lane, and it passes right there at 3:29:48. Now let's discuss on pass number 3. I mean, it's hard to say. When I say pass number 3, I'm talking about when it enters the complex. That's a pass. It does a lot of movement back, behind, and around, etc. So in between the second time it enters the complex And the third time, it does all kinds of movements. Now, the curious movements for me are these right here. There's a series of them. So like right here, it says at 3:45:07, headlights are seen traveling north on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road. Okay, and then the next reference to the suspect vehicle is headlights are seen traveling south on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road. Well, what does that mean then? Because let me show you where that is. Right over here is exactly where they're talking about. I have all these time frames on here, but we'll just visually look at it. There's a 1112 King Road building is right there. And let's get a better time on the map. I think that's better because you can actually see the building. So 1112 King Road right there, and this is 1122 King Road where the homicides took place. So that means if we go back to the document, at 3:45:07, the headlights are seen traveling north, and then 3:47:08, they're heading south. So let's go back to the map, and it goes this direction at the 3:45:07, and then it comes back this direction at 3:47:08. Okay, but it doesn't say that it was on any other cameras in between that time. So what does that mean? The vehicle travels this direction, and then it comes back like 2 minutes later. So what it means is the vehicle did not go down here on King Road because the 1112 King Road camera would have picked it up. The camera right on this building would have picked it up, just like it has done on all the other passes. And then what's interesting is this Linda Lane camera here at 1320 Linda Lane also did not pick up the vehicle driving by. But that could be because the footage is missing. We'll have to take a look at that here in a minute. And if it's missing, then the vehicle likely would have had to turn up this direction. And maybe it did. Maybe it drove in here and parked in this parking lot. I don't know. But the vehicle does not go this direction and down here. It's possible it went that way. But you would think it would show up on some cameras. It didn't show up here on the Ridge Road camera either. So as it's driving this direction, it was not picked up. Later on at 4 o'clock, 4:01-ish, it's picked up coming this direction and this way, down south past the building. So then what did the car do? Let's say there isn't any Linda Lane footage of the 1320 camera that showed the vehicle. That means when the vehicle came around, it must have parked on the side of the road here and then did a U-turn and came back this way 2 minutes later. And let's take a look at that again. Yeah, almost exactly 2 minutes later. 3:45:07 and then 3:47:08. All right, so we take a look at that. Then it does it again. This one, however, is sort of, I have to make a judgment on it. It's an anomaly. I don't know if it's an error in the document or if there's another vehicle and they just don't know which one it is. Because when I would go to the area of the crime scene when I went out there to go visit and look around, etc., I would come in on this blue line right here, just like this, and then take a right and go this direction. So in that scenario, a vehicle isn't going to show up on the camera that is in the complex here. It would show up on the Linda Lane footage, though. So again, if the Linda Lane footage is missing, it's very hard to determine which vehicle is which in this one scenario here. And it almost feels like law enforcement is admitting that we don't know which one of these two vehicles it is. And the reason I say that is because right here it says headlights are seen traveling north on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road, just like we did a minute ago. But then headlights are seen traveling south on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road, and that's the one I'm removing. And then at 3:52:42, headlights are seen traveling south on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road. So how does it head south twice in a row without ever going north again? So that's where I think that this is a a different vehicle. One of these two is the white Elantra. So what I'm choosing is that at 3:50 and 27 seconds, the headlights are seen traveling north on Walenta Drive, and then it comes back at 3:52:42, which is pretty similar to the last time. It's maybe 15 seconds longer. And that the 3:51:26 sighting is actually a different vehicle. All right, now let me show you up here again. So the only thing that it would change is the vehicle's driving up here, came around, and it would stop, and it stopped for less amount of time, then turned around and came this direction, and then somewhere over here it maybe slows down or parks, don't know. But the version that I have is matching the prior trip where it drives by, comes over here, stops somewhere on Taylor Avenue, but before Linda Lane, because we don't have a reference of it passing Linda Lane. And then 2 minutes and 15 seconds later, it comes back and is driving south right here. All right, so I had to make a choice on which one of those to use, because it doesn't make sense that there's two souths in a row without it going north again. In that short amount of time, it's impossible for the vehicle to have sort of gone this direction and then avoided cameras everywhere and then came back around again south. It's just impossible. So that's likely two different vehicles. All right, now we have the vehicle do something similar again. Headlights are seen traveling north on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road. And so what we're seeing is that at 3:53:36 it drives this direction, and it must go over here again, because, and then do a U-turn and then enter the complex. And I wonder if Kohberger was doing all these things just to be a little bit difficult to detect and throw things off. I mean, it's interesting. So let's take a look at this again. At 3:53:36 a.m., it's heading north on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road. That's when the camera at 1112 King Road can pick up lights on Walenta Drive back there. But then the next sighting is a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 travels south on King Road and turns east onto Queen Road. So what this means is the vehicle drove like this, must have waited over here somewhere, turned around, came back, then it goes into the complex for pass number 3. So it comes in and then it turns this direction. And so it's interesting that there doesn't seem to be any footage on this Linda Lane camera that shows the vehicle driving. So if it had gone into this parking area over here, it would have to pass Linda Lane, and we don't have that footage. And I don't know if law enforcement has it, but it doesn't seem like it, because wouldn't they be using it in this information? And I just think it's absolutely incredible. Let me show you guys something here. Here's the Linda Lane footage that's online. It's like a 5-hour video. So right now it's 2 in the morning, right? A lot of people like to focus in on these kind of things because of lack of any other thing that they can point to try to find other suspects. They find these people at 2 o'clock and 2:30 and, you know, things like that that have nothing to do with anything. So right now it's 2:27 down there, and here's 3:11, and then here's 3:29:15. So let's just let it play from here, and this is the only time that the camera seems to be working when it really mattered. So this is 3:29:30 coming up, and I think it's at 3:29:45, so another 5 seconds from now. You'll see some lights in the background way back over here. There's the light. See it coming? Here it comes, and it drives by. And that is the suspect vehicle number 1 driving by. Now that's 3:29:55. Now watch this message that pops up on the screen here. So right now it's 3:30 and 29 seconds. Let's see what happens if I forward it 30 seconds. Right there, look at it. Right at the bottom of the screen it says, part from 3:30 a.m. to 4:05 are missing. How in the hell is that possible? I mean, that is absolutely incredible. That's the exact time frame that the Elantra is driving by. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't be able to see it drive by there right before it, when the DoorDash driver's there and it drives east on Taylor Avenue and then goes around by Ridge Road. You would see it drive by here. I mean, this is insane. And then it picks up again at like 4, let's see, now it's 4:07 and 30 seconds. Let me keep moving it forward, 4:08. And so that's way after. So currently, right at this moment, Kohberger is inside the residence killing all 4 victims. Okay, and that's when the camera picks up at 4:05 on its last pass, and it never makes its way back over here again because the vehicle leaves south and heads on Conestoga and then Palouse River Drive and then down south near Blaine, Idaho. So the later element that I was just talking about at 4:01, the vehicle drives up here, and that's right around the time that the DoorDash driver was here, and then comes around and goes this direction and around. So would have had to pass Linda Lane, and then the Ridge Road camera does pick it up as it comes down like this. So why isn't there footage on Linda Lane? Do you guys think it's possible, put in the comments what you think, that just by some miracle there was a glitch at 3:30 until 4:05, exactly the same time frame that the white Elantra is moving around? I mean, I guess it's possible. I've seen coincidences like that before, but my God, that one is just unbelievable. So let's take a look at that particular route that was in one of the recent documents. It says, from the review of the 1125 Ridge Road video, and we're talking about that 401 sighting when it was missing its front license plate, which admittedly provides the best view of the suspect vehicle. Investigators were able to determine that the suspect vehicle shared similar class characteristics to a 5th generation Hyundai Elantra between 2014 to 2015. This video was taken at 4:01 a.m., approximately 0.3 miles from the crime scene, based on the 1125 Ridge Road surveillance and the other video surveillance. Investigators can determine the suspect's path of travel as follows. And this is exactly what I've shown you guys for a long time. So the vehicle travels like this, down and around. This is where there's a surveillance camera at 451 Paradise Drive. So it shows the vehicle going this direction, and then around, and then north on Walanta Drive, right up here, and then into the complex. And then it says it takes approximately 3 minutes to travel from 1125 Ridge Road to 1112 King Road. A logical application means the vehicle with characteristics of a 5th generation Hyundai Elantra is the same vehicle on the 1112 King Road camera at 4:04 a.m. This same line of reasoning can be applied to other surveillance videos. The state should be able to introduce all video surveillance surrounding the crime scene preceding the homicides. The state's expert should be able to opine, based on the analysis and the surrounding circumstances, that the surveillance is picking up the same suspect vehicle, which he identified as sharing the same characteristics as a 2014 to 2015 5th generation Hyundai Elantra. And that's exactly right. The defense team seems to think that you need to have a camera on every single building to be able to say that, yes, this is the same vehicle. And the portion in the recently released documents that mentions that, it says at 4:01:30, a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 travels south, then east on Lauder Avenue. So you're looking at this. South, and then it's shown heading east. So likely the camera is right over here where it can see it heading south, and then east, right? So back over in the document, it says at 4:01:43, that's 13 seconds later, a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 turns from eastbound Lauder Avenue onto southbound Ridge Road. So the vehicle was completely picked up during that entire time. And let's go back and take a look at the map. So that first point in time where it picks up is likely up here. and then it shows the vehicle in 13 seconds worth of time driving like this, and then it turns this direction, picked up on another camera. So it goes like that and then down. This building had 2 cameras on it. And then because it does head south, it then has to pass the 451 Paradise Drive camera right here, unless it did a U-turn and happened to turn back around and go that direction. At this time, at the 4:01:43 a.m., that the camera can determine that, or law enforcement can determine based on the camera footage, that the vehicle's missing a front license plate. And let's read the argument that the prosecution has in there. It says, defendant argues there is no continuous footage linking the vehicle at the 1112 King Road footage, and that from Ridge Road, defendant's motion on page 3, defendant's argument appears to suggest that because every single business and residence surrounding the crime scene did not have video surveillance, the state should be precluded from introducing this evidence. This is illogical. Yes, it is. As argued above, the state should be able to introduce all captured video surveillance surrounding the crime scene preceding the homicides. The state's expert should be able to opine, based on his analysis and the surrounding circumstances, that the surveillance is picking up the same suspect vehicle, which he identified as sharing the same characteristics as a 2014 to 2015 fifth-generation Hyundai Elantra. So remember, before it was 2011 to 2013 originally, and then they added the 2014 to 2015 because all of those years of Elantras are very similar and actually can, I think it was 2016 even. So it was 2011 to 2016. And all of those years, you can trade out the same windows, etc. But this camera here, they were able to even narrow it down further and say it was 2014 to 2015. The opinion would not be speculative as argued, but instead based on logical, educated inferences from review of surveillance videos, including observed traffic flow, direction of travel, and timestamps. I absolutely agree with that. When I do it, it just seems absolutely logical with the footage that they have. The only thing that I, again, have a problem with is that when it's heading south 2 times in a row on Walenta Drive behind 1119 King Road. And here is the shot that camera took. And I've made other videos where I do an overlay of this vehicle on a model 2015 Elantra, and it's very consistent. The only issue here is that this vehicle is very blurry. So like here's the fin up there. It looks like that because the shutter speed is too slow and it's blurry. Okay, if this was in the middle of the day, it probably wouldn't have looked like that, but this is a nighttime shot. Now if the camera setting is low, like let's say it's only 15 frames a second, they sometimes do that to save space, then it's still going to be blurry. However, I guess even if it's 15 frames a second and they have a quick shutter speed, each frame should be clear. It's just that if you have video playing and it's a slow shutter speed at night, and even digital shutter speed, it is going to be blurry like this. And if you can see at the bottom right there, it shows that it's missing a front license plate, just like Brian Koberger's vehicle had. It was missing a front license plate as he was from Pennsylvania. So there probably aren't a lot of 2014 to 2015 white Elantras driving around Moscow, Idaho, missing a front license plate at 3:30 in the morning, other than a person who admits that he was driving around late at night. Even Ann Taylor, in one of the recent hearings, said that that's his vehicle. But you just can't prove that it's a continuous loop that goes around. All right, so now we have it at 3:29, driving by the A&W, missing a front license plate, and driving by the Ridge Road camera. And so what they'll be able to do at trial is show that this is the white Elantra missing its front license plate. And they'll probably show the timeline of suspect vehicle 1 first, and then maybe introduce this shot before discussing characteristics in videos and say, look, how it's missing a front license plate, and then go back to the A&W one after that, and then the jury will be able to say, yeah, it's got to be the same vehicle. How many white Elantras are missing a front license plate in a state that requires front license plate, driving around at 3:30 in the morning in the same general area? They'll be able to correlate the two together, which any logical person should be able to do. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. So let me know in the comment section what you think. Where did the vehicle go those 3 different times where it was heading north, but apparently doesn't show up on the Linda Lane camera? But we know now that the Linda Lane footage filming at the exact time that you would see all of these different passes is missing. Okay, so when the vehicle would drive this direction and go by here 4 different times really, but on loop number 3, it drives north and then comes back this direction next, and it doesn't have any sightings here. Now, if the camera is working, does the vehicle drive over here and then maybe park over in this area? Because eventually it does come back south again, but the vehicle does not show up on this Ridge Road camera here. So it would have to have gone over this direction somewhere. I guess we just don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Without that footage, it's hard to have a continuous motion of the vehicle. And that might be how they would be able to tell that those 2 times it goes south, one of them isn't the vehicle. They would have been able to tell it on the Linda Lane camera. But man, let me know, what do you guys think? Do you think that the timing is, I think that's nefarious. If somebody removed the 4:30 to 4:05 time frame, that just seems unbelievably coincidental, exactly during the time that it matters. You do see the vehicle coming in at 3:29, but it goes out for the entire time the crime was committed. I mean, that's absolutely unbelievable. So that's what we've talked about today, that the white Elantra was seen twice without its front license plate, but one was more clear. And we talked about the crazy missing time when the vehicle heads north behind 1119 King Road on Walanta Drive, and then heads south again without seemingly showing up on any other cameras. We've also talked about, you know, the admissibility of talking about the different surveillance cameras without having a camera at every single building going around. You can make inferences. It'll be up to the defense team to dispute anything the prosecution says. Well, again, thank you all very much for watching. And if you could hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel and leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. I think this stuff is absolutely fascinating and interesting, and I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. So, as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there.